We're particularly excited to delve now into the next topic with our esteemed speaker, because up next, Nikhil Joshi, who is the COO of Emurgo, is going to be taking to the stage to outline, I suppose, his key initiatives and how you can facilitate commercial growth this year. He'll also be describing how Emurgo adopted the Cardano ecosystem and leveraged its technology. Welcome, Nikhil, for your keynote.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to watch me speak and talk you through what Emurgo has been up to this year, the Year of the Dragon. Why is it the Year of the Dragon? Well, we are based in Singapore, and I'm using the Chinese New Year calendar reference there, and really wanting to demonstrate to you guys what we have done, right, to facilitate commercial adoption. Let me start off by just refreshing people's minds on what is Emurgo actually here to do. Sometimes this is confusing for people. I'd say the tagline is, we facilitate commercial adoption. Now, how do we do that? So this is a visual to just talk you through some of the things I'll touch on and give a bit more example in a minute. We've built fintech infrastructure. We provide education content. We facilitate commercial partnerships, and I'll give more examples of these in a second. Investment. Now, this is an interesting one. When I say investment here, I'm not necessarily talking about Emurgo making investments, but rather Emurgo facilitating investments coming into the Cardano ecosystem. And as I touched on a second ago, we are headquartered in Singapore, and actually a lot of our footprint is across Southeast Asia, and that really is where a lot of our focus is. That's not to say it's exclusively in Asia. We are always open to opportunities. Wherever commercial opportunities are, we will definitely be interested in having those discussions. But in spite of this all being in the digital realm and in the blockchain space, things do still ultimately come back to human relationships. And so if we can be close to humans in Southeast Asia and Africa, where we have a lot of footprint as well, then that will be our first port of call. So I'm going to show you in a second that we've done a lot this year in terms of bringing various partners to Cardano. But rather than just sort of throw up a bunch of names and without going into detail, I wanted to showcase some examples that provide a bit of a cross-section in terms of the types of folks we've been talking to, the types of partnerships we've established, and what does this mean for Cardano overall? I'm going to start with probably our biggest announcement of the year, which is the launch of USDA. For those of you who've been within Cardano for a while, you'll probably recall that this was something we were due to launch last year. We went back to revisit how we play here. I will be open in saying that our concerns were initially around some of the regulatory risks there. And what we've done this time round with the launch of this fiat-backed stablecoin is we've partnered with a Dubai-headquartered remittances company called Encryptus. They have permissions in over 80 countries around the world. And so that immediately gives us an ability to distribute USDA across the globe. Not the US yet, but they're working on it, and they'll get there in short order. This allows, in conjunction with Yoroi, which is the light wallet that we operate, it allows people to on-ramp, off-ramp using Yoroi. There's swap functionality in there, and we've partnered with BitGo. This is significant. BitGo is a institutional custodian, and so US dollars will be that custodied with them. It gives users comfort, right, that the US dollars aren't going to disappear once they convert into USDA itself. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on each of these, partly because my colleague Vineet and Shantanu, who is the CEO of Encryptus, are running various masterclasses over today, tomorrow. Vineet will be up on stage himself talking about USDA and Yoroi, how they work together. And this points to the first point I made on the previous slide around us building fintech infrastructure. So we're targeting an actual launch in the next couple of months or so, and we're very, very excited about this particular one. Okay. There was a masterclass running, and I think it's just about to end, with our friends at Antler. For those of you who are not familiar, Antler is a startup accelerator and incubator. They are actually across the board, meaning they are agnostic to the Web3 or otherwise technology that founders are using. The relevance of this here is that in the past, there's been, I think, a lot of questions asked about whether Emurgo will invest through Emurgo Ventures or elsewhere into startups. We don't really do that anymore, right? We are more interested in operating, be it USDA or building commercial partnerships. But that doesn't mean we're going to walk away from the problem. So the great thing about partnering with Antler is that, first of all, they've created this structure called IBEX. And that's where we will work with them, where they invest in, over the next 3 years, 100 startups, specifically in the financial services space. And that will allow us to demonstrate the real use cases, real problem statements or opportunity statements that these startups and founders are working on, incorporating Cardano and other Web3 components. But in addition to that, Antler is now a point where projects building within Cardano can go to and seek investment from Antler. Right? It doesn't, by the way, it doesn't need to be in the financial services space. As I say, Antler is agnostic. So if you're building something, for example, supply chain, medical related, something away from financial services, should we say, you can now go to Antler and go through their process. It doesn't guarantee investment, of course, right? They will be looking for commercial viability, as other investors will be, but it is a mechanism to secure investment. Just as a quick additional point, again, if we Emurgo are not investing, doesn't mean we're walking away from the problem. In addition to Antler, we've now curated a list of north of 30 VCs who are interested in learning more about Cardano, learning more about projects that are within the ecosystem. Right? And we will, in short order, start putting out a process whereby projects and VCs can come together. We're not taking any skim in this. We are simply facilitating the discussion. If it comes off well between the project and the VC, fantastic. In addition, we partnered with Huawei, and this ticks a few boxes. While I'm talking about investment, I will say this. Huawei is a significant Web2 player. They have interest in looking in being a bit more Web3, and they're cash rich. And so they themselves have their own investment unit, and they are interested in investing in projects that fit their thesis. And we have, in fact, had an example where a Cardano-based project got funding shortly after we announced the Huawei partnership. So again, another example of how we bring investment and funding into the ecosystem. Past that, Huawei, the reason for bringing Huawei to Cardano is that they have their cloud. And now projects have the optionality to have their node sitting on Huawei's cloud instead of, say, AWS. This is just optionality for projects. You can decide whether you want to do it or not. Right? The good thing is, from an overall point of view, we're removing some concentration risk. Right? So if nodes were all built on AWS and AWS falls down, we're in a bit of a pickle. So this is just removing some of that risk. And then there's a suite of other benefits and features that Huawei brings once that happens. We have a booth downstairs. If you want to know more about this, please come down, and me or one of my colleagues are happy to talk you through more detail on how that works. All right. So about 6 weeks ago or so, we announced that we were partnering with Kinka, which is part of a Japanese listed company whose business it is to act as a broker on gold trading. They have interest in tokenizing gold. Why we're excited about this is for two reasons. One, it's Japanese, and so typically that comes with a certain risk aversion, should we say, culturally. And secondly, it's a listed company. So there's clearly a lot of stuff they need to think about before they get into the tokenization space. So the fact that Kinka, for those two reasons, has decided to work with us, and we now have an ability to tokenize gold and distribute it to various investors is testament to our tokenization platform, but clearly testament to Cardano. They've chosen Cardano as the blockchain of choice to tokenize their gold. All right. And then earlier this year, we also announced that we had brought GSR to the ecosystem. GSR is a significant, large digital asset market maker. So if you're a project, you're looking for help with listing your tokens, with market making, GSR is now, again, an option for you to go to, and we will help facilitate that. You can come to us, and we'll make the introductions to the right folks at GSR. They also come with a pretty polished black book of contacts, if I can describe it that way. So again, with those contacts, very much from the institutional space, have an interest in being closer to the digital assets and crypto world. This is another opportunity to secure some form of investment. Right? So again, an example of how we're bringing external capital into Cardano. Right. Zilliqa, our friends at Zilliqa, who, by the way, are here today as well, and they'll be on a panel session today or tomorrow, I can't remember, apologies, with my colleague Amr, who is today, thank you. Amr is just here. He runs our business development, and he's having a panel session. Zilliqa is a layer one. They have a very specific focus, which is on luxury and high-end goods. We want to show interoperability for Cardano, and we want to show that there is a use case for Cardano. And ultimately, I think most of us would agree, I think, that all roads lead to interoperability, right? And people are loyal to application, not necessarily technology in isolation. And so this is a great step in showing that we can work with another layer one, not just in terms of the tech integration, but the commercial opportunity that comes off the back of that. In this case, going to the high-end luxury sector and identifying new revenue streams for those sorts of companies, those sorts of organizations, using blockchain as a way to play in the new digital world with a younger generation that places value on things in a different way that previous generations may have done in the past. Right, so that was just a very, very brief cross-section to give you a flavor of the examples of organizations that we've talked to, that we've partnered with, to bring benefit and value to Cardano. This, on this slide, is all the other ones that we've talked to as well. So these are things that have been announced. These are live. These are on our social media for you to get a bit of more of an understanding of why have we done this, what's the value that it brings, how might this be relevant to you. But in all cases, please do come down to our booth and grab one of us from Emurgo if you have any questions on any of these names that you see here. We'd be very happy to talk you through it. Right, and then I just wanted to quickly go through, because we've got a lot of speeches like this on stage, or masterclasses that are happening over today and tomorrow, and I just want to flag these. The Antler one actually took place just now, but there is another session tomorrow at 12:30. We've got a session on tokenizing RWAs. That is with Chris from Kinka, who's here, and Max from Zilliqa. We've also got Julian Sawyer, who's the CEO of Zodiac Custody, on stage there as well, talking about tokenization. My colleague Ahmed, who is part of our Emurgo Africa team, will be talking about what they're up to, specifically around the development side. And then we've got Vinit, who I mentioned a few minutes ago, talking about both Yoroi and USDA. So the tokenization of fiat plus the wallet and how they interact with each other. Again, USDA, we've got sessions on DeFi, and a panel session that I'm on as well, actually talking about the disruptive nature of Web3 in typical day-to-day use cases. And finally, more on USDA and ICANN. So we've rolled out from our Emurgo Academy recently courses that help you understand more of how ICANN works and how we can use it. But we're particularly interested in going out to ex-Cardano developers and saying, listen, if Haskell was the reason you weren't coming here before, then ICANN might be a good way for you to play a bit more in our space. All right, so I'm coming up on time. There's a lovely QR code for a bit more information. And I say this was really just to give you a bit of a glimpse on what we've done this year with various partnerships. It's very much anchored in the commercial application of Cardano more so than the tech in of itself. Of course, those two go hand in hand, but we are here to facilitate commercial adoption of Cardano, and that means that we go out and talk to people outside Cardano and try and bring them towards our space. But equally, we will take projects and see how they can work with the outside world as well. So thank you for giving me your time. I appreciate it. And please do come and grab any of us wearing an Emurgo t-shirt or hoodie, and our booth is downstairs. And enjoy the rest of the summit.